Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this live emergency update of our live storm coverage here. Today is Thursday, March 13th, 2025. We are watching right now some storms here down in places like Double Springs here. We've got a storm working its way through. So there's going to be some scattered storms here moving through Alabama and Tennessee here this evening as we kind of go. We're just kind of watching some of these storms here right now, but this overall is not the main story here. This is just me being a weather nerd watching some storms as they're moving through the Dixie Alley area and deep south here up into near Nashville. You can see some of these storms popping off here. Some of these were severe warned a short time ago, but nothing overall too bad here right now. A lot of scattered thunderstorms here. But really, that's not the big picture here. What we're going to be looking at here is a very dangerous situation as a major storm is working its way across the United States, and the big picture starts tomorrow. So tomorrow we are looking way out here over much of the central and southern portions of the United States down into the deep south, Mobile, Alabama, all the way stretching down as far as even Houston can see some of that thunderstorm activity tomorrow. And most likely, a lot of this is going to happen in the evening and overnight hours. So unfortunately, this is going to be a very dangerous situation for folks, especially in this red area here. So this is the moderate risk for severe weather here. So what are we talking about as far as this area here tomorrow? We're talking about the tornado risk. Sorry, let me get back to this. So we have a moderate risk of tornado outbreak. This is the hatched outbreak. So we're thinking that if we're going to see any kind of severe tornadoes, they're going to end up in this area here. And this stretches all the way down into Jackson, Mississippi, even into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Florence, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, all the way over towards Nashville. These areas could see the potential for some tornadoes as well. And you can't rule out tornadoes up all the way into places like Rochester, Minnesota, Madison, Wisconsin, even into Chicago, Illinois, Indianapolis. And we'll take a look at what this is going to look like here as we kind of progress through the day tomorrow and into the overnight hours. But I think once we hit the overnight hours tomorrow night, the tornado threat is going to start, and it's going to continue pretty much nonstop for the next 24, 48 hours. And then eventually on Sunday, we'll be over here on the coast looking at the potential for some minor severe weather here. But we'll dive deep into that here in a little while. But definitely want to start talking about, we've been talking about this for a couple days now, and definitely not looking good, folks. So if you have friends in any of these portions of the country here and then down into this area as well coming for Saturday, you definitely need to make sure you get with them and make sure they have a plan in place and have multiple ways to receive warnings. I can't stress this enough, that this is going to be a very dangerous situation as this very large storm is forecast to produce some pretty severe weather. Now, tomorrow in these portions, I'm going to switch this color because I really just hate blue. But up in these areas right in here, tomorrow's where you're going to see that heavy straight line wind risk. And we're maybe tomorrow isn't going to be the day for the massive tornado outbreak, but there's definitely that major possibility, and we'll look at that here on the models. Definitely Saturday down in portions of Mississippi, Alabama, up through even into the Ohio Valley on Saturday, and we'll take a look at that. We don't have the tornado parameters on that yet, but you can just see how large. We've got this moderate risk here for portions of Jackson, Mississippi. We got out into Birmingham, Alabama, up into Huntsville, Florence, Montgomery, Alabama, stretching all the way down into New Orleans. That moderate risk of severe weather at that point there. So overall, pretty much anywhere in these areas here could see the possibility for strong winds, severe storms, but majority of it's going to be focused within these two circles here for the major tornado threat here. So definitely can't say we can't see a tornado up in these areas here, but definitely the major tornado risk is going to be down here, and I can't stress it again. This is going to be a very dangerous situation, and we're going to start seeing those tornado parameters come out for this area for the Saturday forecast tomorrow. As far as wind threats here, as you can see, this is a very wind-driven system. The wind is going to be extremely dangerous. 45% of significant severe winds here in this St. Louis area especially, and then extending all the way into Des Moines, you got that significant severe 30%. So it doesn't really drop off much until you really start to get out into places like Fort Wayne, Columbus, Cincinnati, out to Topeka, those areas where the winds the wind threat seems to be a little bit less. Minneapolis, but can't rule out the fact that we could see some pretty damaging winds in any of these areas over the next 24 to 48 hours here. We're sitting out at 8 p.m. So about 8 p.m., 5 to 8 p.m. is when you're going to start seeing a lot of this really start firing off in this portion of the country right here, and then eventually moving. But that line is going to extend the whole way down into Jackson, Mississippi, those areas for tomorrow. So that threat is very large for tomorrow and into the overnight hours, and then eventually carrying through all the way into the morning hours down here in places like Nashville, Jackson, Mississippi, even into Alabama at that point. Arkansas is definitely in there as well, Louisiana, portions of that, and we'll see that here on the models as we look a little bit closer here. So as we get out to day 4 here is when we start getting in. We are still under that 15% probability of severe weather here for the South Carolina, stretching all the way up into Pennsylvania and down into the Florida, the Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Gainesville area. So a very large area. What we're not seeing here with this system is Saturday, is going to be the peak of the system. So the peak of the system is going to occur somewhere within here. By the time we get over to here, this storm system is going to be weakened significantly to the point where severe weather, we may have that risk of severe weather mainly along the coast here and extending up north into portions of northern North Carolina, southeastern North Carolina, even into parts of Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and New Jersey at that point. Could be the hot spots, but what we're lacking here is storm fuel. So our CAPE values are very low, if any. Hopefully that's going to stand as we go through. I'm waiting to make my final calls here. Really too early right now to make any final calls here for South Carolina, but really what I'm waiting for is that Saturday morning system to really start kicking off here, and really see what that looks like and how that holds together throughout the day and into the overnight hours. And then I'll really be able to hone in on what I feel like our forecast is going to look like here. So maybe a late forecast, late final forecast. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook to receive notifications when I do post these updates for this final forecast. Looking like right now, not a whole lot in the way of anything to really worry about except for damaging winds. At that point, we could see some straight line winds, maybe a tornado or two. Conditions are favorable. We're just lacking that real sufficient storm fuel to see anything like what we're going to be seeing here in portions of Dixie Alley and up into the Midwest over the next 24-48 hours. So can't rule out severe thunderstorms here on Sunday. Later on in the afternoon, but timing's going to be a big key here, and fuel is going to be a big key here. So if we can get some more of that fuel dipping into our area, then the possibility might increase. So this is still very fluid here for us in South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, all of those areas highlighted here in the yellow. So very kind of fluid situation here as we move through the next 24-48 hours. But you can count on me to keep you aware all the time here with what's going on. So As we look here at models here really fast, I'm not going to hold you guys up too much tonight because tomorrow and Saturday are really the big picture days here. But I'm going to turn off this severe weather outlook so you guys can really see what's going on these models. So we're going to start here with tomorrow, looking at places like St. Louis, Indianapolis, Columbus, all the way up into Minneapolis, and take a peek at what those models look like here as far as the composite reflectivity. So this is what we're going to be looking at as we go through the day tomorrow and into tomorrow night and the overnight hours. So as you can see here, here we are today. Let's go out to tomorrow and we'll run this out. Roughly, you can start seeing here by 4 p.m. We've got some showers and storms starting over here in Kansas and working to the northeast. So we do have some of those storms starting to pop up there in these areas around 4 p.m. And then by 5, 6 p.m., you just see this massive line really start forming. And we got a real linear storm mode here. And this is where we could see some of those straight line winds, very dangerous straight line winds, moving up into the Des Moines, Davenport, Burlington, Quincy, St. Louis, those areas. And you can see how this just really starts to define itself and really mature as it moves up into the overnight hours. So here we are at 11 p.m. and you're looking up into the Davenport, through Des Moines and Waterloo. Those areas definitely need to be in a safe place here with winds. We could see this could end up. We're not going to know until this system is completely over, but this could be what's called a derecho here. Moving up with constant straight line winds for hundreds and hundreds of miles. So I'm curious to see how this plays out over the next 24 hours, but definitely going to be really interesting. But if you're in any one of these areas, you definitely want to be making plans, and you want to be prepared. Tomorrow morning is your last chance to prepare for this storm, as things are going to progress really quickly over the next 24 hours here. So definitely want to be prepared if you're in these areas. Now, as we move through the overnight hours, what's concerning to me with the tornado threat is you start to see all these storms kind of split off on their own and they become more cellular here. So this is where I start to see the increase for the tornado activity, especially into portions of Tennessee. We've got Kentucky, western Kentucky, and then eastern Missouri and Kansas. Missouri. So definitely looking at these cellular storms start to develop. Now, here's what we're talking about as far as moving in. You can kind of see as we move into Saturday morning, these storms really just never stop. We're starting to get that development of storms here into the Mississippi and Louisiana, even down here along New Orleans and everything. We're starting to see those storms really start forming. So that just really never stops. So I don't think we're going to see that tornado risk really stop from about 6 p.m. tomorrow all the way through the day on Saturday and into the overnight hours on Saturday as well. But then you can see here Saturday afternoon around 3 p.m. this line of storms really starts getting its act together, and that's when we're going to start seeing that tornado threat really increase here as we go through the day and into the evening hours, especially for places like Nashville, Tupelo, Huntsville, Birmingham, Alabama, as that line starts moving through. So we're going to be focusing. I think if you're a storm chaser, definitely your main focus needs to be down in here in these parts, even extending mostly up into Jackson or Nashville for those cellular. This area right here, I think, is where we're going to see those long track tornadoes, and even extending over in here to portions of Jackson, Tupelo, Tuscaloosa. Those areas is where we're going to see that chance for those long track tornadoes to start working their way through. So very dangerous situation for any of these areas over the next 24-48 hours. And then we start to move east with that system. And you can see here, as we start to move east, we've got storms extending into the Atlanta area around 2 a.m. on Saturday. and then that's about as far out as what this model is going to get us. So if we switch over to the GFS and we run that out as soon as it loads here, we run that out to 2 a.m. Now this is going to be not quite as high resolution, but here's those storms in Atlanta. So still a pretty well-defined line of storms even at 2 a.m. moving in through Atlanta, and then eventually into the Greenville. By the time we're in the Greenville area, you can still see a well-defined line of storms. So still holding together quite a bit here. And then we hit eventually the Columbia area, still very well-defined large line extending all the way up through Greensboro, North Carolina, up into Virginia as well. Still at that point, pretty well defined here as we move through, and then eventually starts to kind of fall apart here, getting in towards Florence and those areas, moving into approximately 5 p.m. So timing is what I'm really talking about. Earlier in the week, it was looking like 1 to 4. Now we're stretching kind of into that 5, 6 p.m. and even through 8 p.m. Still seeing some lingering showers here. So overall, this is what it can look like for us here. And we'll hop over here into some models online here and take a close look at what we're looking at here as far as us here on Saturday here. But we're going to look at the storm fuel here. So most unstable Cape here is what I want to really hone into and pay attention to. Let me just make sure you guys can see that. Yep. Okay. So here we are. We'll go out to Saturday. You can see this plenty of instability out here for Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, extending all the way up into the Ohio Valley. Tons of storm fuel there as we move through. And then we get into the overnight and early morning hours on Sunday. You can see the Cape here. This is about the most unstable time that we're going to see here, according to this model right now. Now, I will be honest with you, this model's been bouncing. The GFS has been bouncing back and forth on this for quite some days here. So several days. Every now and then you'll see some higher Cape amounts up here in North Carolina, a little bit higher here, definitely in Georgia, Florida. But overall, looking like we're going to be lacking a lot of storm fuel. So you can see what it takes, the amount of fuel that it takes to produce tornadoes in the Dixie Alley area. So just kind of equate that to our area. We can count our blessings that we're not having that storm fuel here mixed with those large winds at the 850 millibar and those upper level. So the winds turning at the upper levels is what produces what's called wind shear. And so we're going to have the wind shear, but we're not going to have the fuel and instability to be able to hopefully fire off any kind of tornado outbreak or severe weather outbreak for our area. So I think we're looking pretty good there. But as we look at the 850 millibar at 1 o'clock here on Sunday, you can see those upper level or the lower level jet here extending 20 knots, 22 knots. So really a big change as far as this jet as we came through the last couple days. We were seeing a pretty significant jet here. But like I said the other day, I think a lot of those lower level winds are going to end up being up into the Virginia, Pennsylvania area, far away from any of that moisture and instability, to a point where we're not going to see as robust of a severe outbreak here along the Grand Strand, which is keeping us very safe. But here we can take a look at what this trough looks like as it starts moving across over the next 24 hours here. We'll come back here to tonight and we'll work our way through. So here's that storm system, that trough that's working its way across the southern portions tonight, bringing some of those isolated severe thunderstorms and slight tornado risk to Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia in the overnight hours here. That's going to move off, and this trough is going to make its way in and start wreaking havoc tomorrow, early evening and in through the night. And eventually you see this trough kind of split off here. Another secondary surface low is going to form down here over Louisiana, Texas, and eventually bring that severe weather there for Saturday and into Sunday the overnight hours, and then eventually to South Carolina during the day and early evening hours on Sunday. So overall here for the Grand Strand, not a whole lot to worry about right now. Definitely be prepared. I am not going to be one of those guys that's going to come on here and tell you you have to. I'm not going to blow something up to something that it's not. I'm going to be honest with you and tell you definitely want to be prepared, because this is very fluid for our area. We're still several days away from this, so that possibility still remains that we could see severe weather in some way, shape, or form. I think my confidence is very high that if we do see anything severe, it's going to be more wind driven, in the form of straight line winds. Um, the hail risk and flash flooding risk and all of that stuff. I don't think we're going to see that, but we could see some rain. We could see some definitely beneficial rain out of it. But as far as the severe weather risk, I think we're still going to remain a little low. Wouldn't be surprised if they run us into that 30% risk as we move through into Saturday. But definitely don't want to count us out all the way up the East Coast down into Florida just quite yet. So we'll keep an eye on things here as we move through the next 24, 48 hours. We're going to continue to keep you guys updated and keep you posted on this. But overall, right now, looking pretty decent for us as we move through the next couple days. But like I said, very fluid. It will change. It probably will change most likely over the next 24, 48 hours. But we will be bringing you those updates and keeping you guys aware. So you stay safe, and I'll make sure.